I think he'll come home. I think he'll come home. And if he comes home, we must be very nice to him because he won't particularly want to. He's quite angry, I think, and he's quite... And to me...
You think he'll come home alone?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. The King, as I mentioned before, has left the door wide open for him to do that. And, you know, he was doing such a good job before. And as we said earlier in the programme, he looked so happy. And because usually you're happy when you're doing your duty and you're doing it for other people and you're putting things into life. If you're taking things out of life, you're not. And at the risk of... I'll probably get a lot of hate mail, but I personally think he looks... that he's petrified of losing her and looks slightly petrified of her, to be honest. But that's kind of a tricky one to say, isn't it? It's a horrible syndrome to get into.
Well, we were told last year, some people were quite close to him, that he was feeling a little bit homesick. And I do worry. It's like when they were here, they were apparently so full of ideas, you know, waking up at 5 a.m, coming up with all these ideas. And I am disappointed they've gone to America and after turning on the royal family of all their shows, they're just bringing out a polo show, a cookery show, and picking up awards. You know, I don't know Harry, but I don't think that's the life that maybe he wanted.
What's terribly sad is that the late Queen gave them the whole of the Commonwealth to explore. I mean, that was going to be William and Catherine would do the home things, and the Commonwealth, to which they were both committed. I mean, she'd been doing things in the Commonwealth before she married him. It seemed like a perfect fit, and that wasn't enough for them, which is very sad. I don't know. It could have all been so wonderful, and it's turned out not to be.
I've got an idea. If as you suggest, Harry comes home alone in 10 years, he can live in Royal Lodge.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Let me wrap it all up into one. And I think, to be honest, you may well have done this. I was going to ask, if you could ask any royal, on the record, any question, what would it be?
Well, listen, since we've gone down this awful Harry and Meghan path, what I perhaps might ask the King was, you know, did he, when he was walking her up the aisle, did he have any idea how it was going to turn out? What were his thoughts on that day? But I'm not going to ask him that. So.
What do you think?
And he's not going to tell me anyway. So.
No, I wonder what his answer would be. I think he did the right thing by walking her up the aisle. He was, you know,
well, yes, it was extremely generous of him. And I think, to my mind, again, I listened, so I've sort of stitched myself up effectively already on this topic, but I think she, in a way, sort of twisted the situation into a position where that's what he was going to do, which was, you know, her father should have been there in the church. He was very good to her when she was young. He's a broken man, and I feel very sorry for him.
Okay, and final question, I promise. And again, you may have already stayed in places, but given Balmoral has opened its doors, if you could spend one night in any royal property, where would it be? Have you stayed in any royal property?
Well, I've stayed in Windsor Castle, but not in the royal part of it. If you see, in St George's House and in one or two other places, because there are lots of other people living in Windsor Castle. Yeah. I think I'd rather like to go to Sandringham. I have been to Sandringham. I went to see Prince Charles at Sandringham, but I didn't stay the night. So that'd be quite fun to stay the night at Sandringham, I think.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks, Hugo. I've really enjoyed having you on. I wish we could go on for longer, and I think we could get you back. And I'd like to dig back into some of the stories where some of the members of the royal family that you've met, particularly 40 occasions with the Queen, which I think people listening to that will just be, you know, so impressed. I was terribly, terribly lucky. Yeah. Miss her hugely, don't you? I totally do. Yeah. One of the videos popped up on my phone the other day of 2 years ago, where, you know, and it was a video that I was with the Queen in Scotland, and I'd almost forgotten about the engagement. You know, the memories that come up on your phone.
Yes.
I've not seen her for a long time. So,
I mean, they were there for so long, and somehow it just bestowed a kind of a wonderful aura of calm. And, you know, things haven't been good for the royal family, have they, since then? I mean, they've had a very difficult time with all their illnesses and other things.
So there was video footage of the Duchess of Edinburgh at Sandringham.
Yes.
Taking part in a drinking game while she was carriage racing.
Right.
Who, in all the roles that you've met and all the experience that you've had and been everyone, who would win a drinking game?
Well, funny enough, considering how much wonderful wines and things that they're always offered, they drink very little, the royal family. So I would suggest that you should put Prince William up on this, because he is so tall that it will take a long time to pass through the system, and therefore he'll be able to cope better with whatever, assuming it's alcoholic, that he's given. I don't know what he drinks, but I know that the Queen hardly ever drank any wine. Prince Philip didn't either, and Princess Anne drinks absolutely no alcohol of any kind, won't even have it in the pudding. She wouldn't even have it in the trifle.
That's a good theory, but Mike Tyndall says his nickname is One Pint Willie.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Right, so when I was in Scotland this week, the King and Queen were given a cake by a Great British Bake Off winner. I don't know if you've seen it. Which royal would win if they took part, if they were contestants on Great British Bake Off?
Well, I imagine, going to answer this rather boringly, it'd probably be one of the younger ones who are probably more sort of brought up to look after themselves than some of the older ones who've been catered for. So I guess, maybe one of the younger royals, perhaps Zara Tindall, who knows, might be a good person for that. I'm sure they're all very practical. I'm sure they're very good. They're all very good at looking after themselves.
That's a good answer. I remember seeing some footage of George, William and Catherine kind of baking, weren't they?
With the Queen and with Prince Charles. Yeah, they did the generations, didn't they, in Windsor Castle. So, well, maybe Prince George would be up to it. He's a great cricketer, Prince George, by the way.
Is that right?
Yeah, look out for him in cricket.
Okay, all right. I'll note that one down. So what do you think has been the biggest crisis in the royal family over the past 50 years?
Well, of course, 50 years doesn't take in the abdication. So obviously, I suppose the death of Diana, 1997, was a big crisis point. But at the risk of being controversial, will the arrival of Meghan Markle prove to be a bigger one in the long run? Who knows?
Well, I got in trouble before on this show with some viewers for suggesting that I thought that Harry's departure was the biggest crisis in the past 50 years. But I'm with you. I think that period of time between the Duchess of Sussex arriving, everything changing, and then them leaving, I think is a huge crisis that the royal family is still trying to cope with.
I think that it's quite interesting, all that, because I was, as no doubt you were, in Windsor the day they got married, and the popularity and the goodwill towards them was enormous. And I don't think it was the press. I think she succeeded in eroding that very, very quickly. And what I find unforgivable is the stress that she put on the late Queen in the last couple of years of her life.
Just briefly, I sometimes get, I don't know how you feel about this, but I sometimes get a little bit annoyed with constant efforts to have a go at Harry. Okay, and I try to avoid this sometimes. It's just kind of, it's 4 years ago since he's left. Lots of things have happened, but I think there are often just attempts, really to just have a go at him. But I'm interested in this award that he is been nominated for. Or he's been nominated, but he's actually going to get. Do you know the award? This Pat Tillman Award in the USA, and the award's wonderful. It's a guy, an NFL player, who was inspired by 9/11 or affected so much by 9/11 that he went to fight, and he was sadly killed in combat. So there was an annual award. He's getting this award for his service, Harry, but also for his work with Invictus Games. Right. But his mother is incredibly upset about this. And she said, I've got some quotes here. She says that Harry is a controversial and divisive individual, and there are recipients that are more fitting. How do we feel about this? Is it uncomfortable that he's winning this award?
I think it is a bit uncomfortable. I mean, he doesn't need an award. I mean, I think what he did with Invictus Games was brilliant, and I'm glad that he's still doing things for them. That's very good. But the trouble is, it gets tied up with all this sort of need for reinvention, publicity, and things like that, which they're always doing. I mean, I feel sorry for Prince Harry in another way, because I don't think he looks very happy. I think he's rather out of his depth, to be quite honest. I also think that the King has been brilliant at not responding to any of the things like these documentaries and the book Spare. He's left the door wide open for him to come back whenever he needs to do that, which I suppose is likely to happen at some point.
You mentioned he looks sad, or he looks upset. I think you're right. I haven't seen him smile for a long time.
Well, do you know, the funny thing is I live in chaos at home, and I've been very busy doing other things, and so I had a lot of magazines and newspapers lying around, and I picked one up, and there he was, grinning from ear to ear, and I thought, what's all this about? 2015.
That says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, with this award as well, I mean, I try not to get too upset about it, but his mother said that he shouldn't have it, and there is this question as to whether members of the royal family should be picking up awards like this. The royal family give out awards.
They should give them out. Yeah, they should. They should. Absolutely. I mean, sometimes if there's an award which highlights a particular the people giving the award, and it's helpful for the member of the royal family to receive it, I can understand that that would be useful. What I'm worried about is that this is more to do with publicity for Prince Harry. It seems to me that they have a problem, those two, because they've told their story. I don't know how they can go on and on telling their story, and eventually people are likely to get bored with it, I would imagine. And since the difference between what they're doing and what the British royal family are doing is the British royal family are working for the nation, for us, for the Commonwealth, and they seem to be working for themselves, and that's always unattractive, I think.